All right, it's time. It's time. I don't have a jacket on today because it's toasty, actually, and I've been running around doing a bunch of stuff. So it's a jacket off day. What? That's unfortunate. Maybe I do need to go get one. Yikes. So a couple things right out of the gate. Tomorrow, no show because I have sound check right when the show would be for the jam tomorrow night. If you're in the LA area, come on down to the Whiskey. It's free at the door. I mean, the upstairs table, I think, costs you something, but I don't know. I'm always on stage, so I have no idea how that stuff works. Honest to God. I just realized a couple days ago, I'm like, I think people pay to go upstairs, but I have no idea. And I hope they do for the sake of the people who work there and make a living off that place and the other people who, live off the other things that happen at the jam, the techs and staff and all that kind of stuff. Me, I'm just there to, because they found the little nerve that's my love of music, and they just found a way to work it, and it's good. Anyways, thank you for being here. Let me hold on. Where did it go? Where did you go? Where are you people? Hold on 1 second. I need to open the chat. Don't you know? And you'll notice today from the title, I'm going to within reason. I have decided that 8 banks 2017. Oh yeah, this is such a stupid thing. We'll get to that too. There's going to be some of that bank stuff. Welcome. Hi, chat room. Say hi. How you doing, chat room? You're awesome. You should feel baited. I'm a master at baiting idiots. What? I have this aversion to clickbait, and yet I recognize its power to draw a crowd. And I'm trying to manage a middle ground where I'm not creating a they, them, me, them, the bit. They knew you thought that they thought you wouldn't. You knew that they wouldn't do, and then they did all the shit that Russell Brand and all those guys do, and Tucker does. Like, it's pretty on the nose. And so I decided I'm going to start, and you guys who are lucky enough to join me in the show on the regular consider yourself forewarned that I'm going to start fucking with some of those titles a little bit, especially when it pertains to the clips that we're discussing, because it aggravates me. I get aggravated. It's just what happens. And by the way, welcome. Come on, gather in. Settle in. What's going on? We're about to start the show, and it's Monday, and there's a bunch of you, and you're starting to roll in here. Just, hit that like on your way in the door, because you know you're going to have a good time. And then hit your, if you haven't hit it on the way out, just do it then. At the end, you go, you know what? I should have hit it right out of the gate. I regret doing that. I regret making them wait. And yet, here you are. So, couple things. What else? Yeah, Wednesday, Ron Filipowski was on the morning show if you weren't here today, and it was really great. We had a really great conversation. That poor man. Every time I think of what he does, I feel like the Thermians in Galaxy Quest. When they ask them about Gilligan's Island, those poor people. Like, I just think, surely you don't think that Gilligan's Island is real. Those poor people. Yeah. It's a weird reference, but you'll get it. Anyways, so here we go. So let's dive right in, because people are gonna want to now. Why would you go straight to the conspiracy theories are for idiots, Al? Because A, they are, and B, this dude. So one of the biggest conspiratorial letdowns of the last 18 months, let's just say, specifically, just set up like this, everybody who was into this conspiracy was like, yeah, here it comes. Come on. I'm going to show you. Oh, you're going to get it now. Here it comes. The cavalry is coming. I was shadow banned, and people got, and then nothing. It was the Twitter files. Twitter files have been a massive dud, which is coincidentally the same word that comes to mind when you look at Matt Taibbi. See what I mean? It's just literally the word that just leaps to mind. You look at his, when he's he's about to say something, you're like, it's going to be a dud. It's a dud. This is a dud. Yeah, that's Matt Taibbi. Matt Taibbi, who started his career in Russia with a magazine called Exile, where he and his partner on it sexually harassed all the women that were there in very grotesque ways and laughed about it. I guess this background of being a douchebag, living the high life in collapsing early Russia, post-Soviet Russia, is a thing. I guess it's a thing. And by the way, Lawrence, thanks for becoming a patron. I noticed that came up. And hi, Robert. Thank you so much. Thanks for the gifted subs there, Shadow Woman as well. Hold on, I've got to make this page out. There we go. Now I can see everything. So yeah, in case you don't know that, he got his start in Russia. Shocker. I know. You're thinking, why? It's like at least 100, first or at least 1.5 world countries that you could kind of jumpstart a career in all kinds of stuff in, and wouldn't you know it, they always go to Russia. It's just fucking weird that way. I don't know how that. The traces back to them hanging out there. Not even one of the satellite countries of Russia. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I dicked around Romania for a few years or whatever, and ended up, I have a Russian wife. You don't say. Really? What? Oh my gosh. Kathy, thank you for the super chat as well. Bless you for that. Yes, you can support the show, by the way, patreon.com/HalSparks. Super chats, stars on Facebook. Is anybody even kicking in those anymore? I don't get a notice. I don't see them till later. And so some folks, I just want, I see it later and I'm like, oh, yay. And then I forget to tell the people that so thank you. And yeah. And then, of course, subscribe on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime. Here we go. Now, this is Taibbi on, oh, shit, on Dan Bongino's show. That's how bad it's gotten. Yeah, Taibbi can't even, they're pawning him off. His performance in front of the weaponization committee was such shit that he didn't even get to follow up with a shot on Tucker or Hannity. They bounced him straight to fucking Bongholio over the weekend. Maybe that's why he's got butthead mouth right now. Bongholio. All right, so he's, by the way, you'll recognize if he uses this word, I swear to God, outrageous. It's outrageous treatment. Which means any politician who uses the words outrageous about some accusations, just understand that means they're true. And anybody like this who says they were treated in an outrageous fashion or it was outrageous treatment means they know very well they deserve the treatment they got. This is the easiest part of the decoder ring. Let's see. All right.
Joining me now for his first interview since that hearing.
Yes, and I'm sure he's super excited. Awesome. I get to be on whom? What? I'm not on one of the big... No. We couldn't I can't be on Tucker's Fox Nation show. I mean, nobody watches it, but at least it's... Bongino. All right, well. Yeah, sure. Everybody does afternoon interviews on Saturday. It's really the new... It's the new 8:30 on a Thursday night.
Is a journalist you just heard testify on Capitol Hill...
Excuse me, so-called journalist, also so-called stenographer, also so-called scumbag misogynist, also so-called douchebag. I mean, if we're going to just line up all the things he's been called and whether or not he fully earns the title or not, I'm sure he'll debate the halfway part. Like, I would call him a douchebag, but he would say he's not, so therefore that would make him a so-called douchebag to himself. You get how that works? Great.
Journalist Matt Taibbi. Matt, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate
Thanks. Glad to be here. Who are you again?
Appreciate it. I've been very concerned about this symbiosis between these NGOs, government, and the FBI.
Yeah, it's the non-governmental organizations that are controlling our lives that I'm concerned about. Especially that dude who dresses up as Santa for the Salvation Army every year. That motherfucker.
And censorship. Through your work at the Twitter Files, how exactly does it work? Yeah,
you've only done something like 17 versions of this shit and on Twitter and your Substack, and I still can't grasp. I haven't read any of it because I don't need to. I'm just kind of professionally flipping out about something all the time. So, can you walk me through what you write? Because reading it is no interest whatsoever.
which results in content being pulled down.
Or doesn't. Walk me through the part where it doesn't get pulled down, and then I'll know that this is all nonsense.
Well, originally what we thought was going on was that only the FBI and DHS and maybe a few other agencies were.
Yeah, the EPA, the CDC, anybody with 3 letters, anybody with 4, FEMA, that we're not worried about them. DARPA, they're too busy cooking the atmosphere with Jewish space lasers.
Directly telling companies like Twitter to pull down a few accounts here and there.
Yeah, they didn't do that. They made requests, and I don't know if you know the difference between a request and telling somebody to do something. It's kind of like this. It's like asking someone in your office in Russia, say while you're running a zine, to go out on a date, or telling them to fuck your partner, or more specifically, telling them to let your partner have sex with them in the buttocks area, in the butt area. That'd have to be the butt, Bob.
But as time went
He said butt. I said butt, but then he followed it. I'm just saying.
on, we learned that actually there's a whole complex of organizations and NGOs.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He's tired of his own shit. A whole complex. You know what the whole complex is? Okay, God damn it. You know what the whole complex is? Anybody can ask a social media platform to take shit down. And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say no. And nobody's verboten from asking. The government is verboten from ordering. Private companies and private individuals arguably could put forward a lawsuit threatening to sue Twitter for, posting revenge porn or non-consensual nudes if they don't take them down. And so they can kind of send a cease and desist like letter, which would be the closest thing to someone telling them not to do something like that. Everybody else is, wait for it, asking.
A lot of them are state funded. Some of
Bruh.
them are entirely state funded that are sending huge lists.
Yeah, if you think about it, like Americans, they're all like the Fed makes dollars, and dollars are exchange notes for currency that the Treasury wants. So technically it's all taxpayer money, whether they paid it through taxes or not, if you really think about it.
Lists of names to these companies, and that's the primary route by which people are taken off places like Twitter or Facebook or.
Okay, you're not helping. Bongino doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about. Look at his face. He's already made up his mind what it means, but he doesn't understand the words that just came out of Matt Taibbi's face. And for once, it's not Bongholio's fault, because Taibbi is talking out of his ass.
Any social media site.
Yeah, any of them. Parler. What? Rumble. Truth Social.
Matt, libertarian-leaning conservatives like myself
Tell me you've smoked weed without telling me you've smoked weed, and telling me you call yourself a Christian while you're at your absolute asshole-ish best.
been concerned about things like the Patriot Act, because what happens is, I think what you saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, with the Twitter
But you're wrong already. I'll just correct you. We'll see.
files, where it starts as, hey, we're trying to get rid of foreign interference in elections, and it morphs into, Joey Bag of Donuts on the corner makes a tweet about the vaccine and finds himself, in the doghouse.
All right. Just because you're dealing with foreign influence, or that is the primary reason behind it, doesn't mean that people who lie about the vaccine as such are off the hook from Twitter's terms of service. Especially Joey Bag of Donuts. Fuck that guy, honestly, because he walks around with that bag and he doesn't share. That's why he keeps them in a bag instead of in a box where donuts belong. Joey, you're an asshole.
Am I wrong in that analysis?
Yes.
No, that's absolutely the correct analysis, because this effort actually began with counterterrorism in 2015. Then it progressed to Russian foreign interference in 2016, 2017.
Because it happened?
And then next thing you knew, it was domestic violent extremism.
No, it didn't just happen. They didn't just jump to that. People did a bunch of that shit. Also, we've had domestic violent extremism in this fucking country forever. Timothy McVeigh, anyone? The only thing new about it is the existence of social media. They just realized, oh shit, these folks are using social media as a way of connecting or planning things. Great, now we've got another thing to cover.
And then what we found just this week, we found memos talking about the desire to strike down true stories of vaccine side effects or...
Not the desire. What? True stories of vaccine side effects played up and retweeted like crazy to try and get people extra scared. The normal statistical averages of any people that have issues with vaccines of all kinds should talk everyone out of getting their measles vaccine, because a select member of the public and who should be in contact with your doctor, which is why they said check with your doctor about getting the vaccine and which one might be right for you, and also how they're different, because the Johnson & Johnson one is very different from the mRNA ones, and the people who were afraid of the mRNA tended to go to the Johnson & Johnson. And curiously enough, the myocarditis issues were early in the Johnson & Johnson phases, if you'll recall that, and yet people attribute it to mRNA. It's just weird. It's almost like social media is not a good place to get medical advice.
True stories that might...
Smoke after the show. I mean, I don't recommend it at all. But if you're going to just rip a giant paranoid bong hit, save it. Have a celebratory bong rip after the show. You only got a few minutes.
Encourage hesitancy, vaccine hesitancy. So they went from counterterrorism to going after true material within the space of a couple of years. So it's a small group of people at first, and now it's a really, really big pool of people that they're looking at.
Look, you know what's a really big pool? It's a really big pool. The they he's talking about. Do you notice that? The number of people throwing their hat in the ring in terms of dealing with concerning posts online, from the medical community to, charities or minority work groups, that deal with anti-defamation of LGBT or other minorities or gay people or any of that stuff. There tend to be more of those. They're all online. They have access. They use the service, and therefore, as a user of the service, they can lodge a complaint. And again, this doesn't boil down to how many fucking people ask for what, okay? Never did, never will. The only question is, did anyone in the government tell Twitter or Facebook or any of these organizations, take this down or else? And the answer is yes, actually. In one particular case, Donald Trump, when he wanted Chrissy Teigen's tweets taken down, literally said, we've got to punish these social media. That's when he started talking about getting rid of 230 the most. That's when he really added that extra drive and was basically threatening them with litigation. It was an absolutely impotent threat, as you would expect. But it was a threat all the same. Didn't come from, I don't know how the Biden campaign could have threatened anybody, because they're a campaign, private organization. And the FBI, under most of the complaints that they have in this situation, the FBI, DHS, any of these groups, even the overreach that they seem to be concerned about, all happened when Trump was in office. And again, the only time a federal government agency or person with the power to actually, I guess, engage in legal warfare with one of these companies, put any controls on them from a superseding power, was Donald Trump specifically.
Matt, I want to play for you this quick clip. Obviously, you were there, you've seen it, but the audience may not have.
Yeah, well, I mean, you didn't.
You're the one who exposed this malfeasance, and stunningly, you became the focus of their ire. Here, take a look.
Well, in all fairness, it's because he's full of shit. But also, explain ire. After this. Hold on. By the way, Bongholio has a habit of showing clips and then repeating things that weren't in the clip or saying things happened that weren't in the clip. Enjoy.
That if we can take off the tinfoil hat, that there's not a vast conspiracy.
Are you being paid to be here today, either through consulting fees, campaign contribution to your next run?
Data was given to these so-called journalists before Snap.
I'm not a so-called journalist.
Not anymore. I mean, he used to be a so-called journalist. Now I wouldn't call him that. He's a stenographer for a billionaire.
I've won the National Magazine Award, the IFC.
I'm not a thief. I may have stole some stuff today, but I bought most of the shit I own in the past. And technically, the stolen stuff isn't even mine. So...
An award for independent journalism, and I've written 10 books, including 4 New York Times bestsellers.
Matt, this is disgusting.
Yes, it is disgusting that he tries to rest on his laurels like that while doing everything he can to be in complete contrast with actual journalistic ethics. It's weird. I will give well, we'll see what he does. I was about to give him credit for something, but we'll see what let's finish the thought.
Foil cap, you were paid off. You're a so-called journalist despite
I don't know that they were told. They asked. I don't know what that was in regard to.
a resume to die for.
It's to die for. It's a wonderful resume. My God. Is there anything he can't do except obviously tell the truth?
That had to bother you personally.
Yeah, this is hey. Look, I know you want facts. I know you want to rebut this based on details. That's why you came here to Unfiltered with Bongholio. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Let's get to why this was an attack on you. There'll be plenty of time for details later where you can prove that what they said, while hurtful, yes, was false. We don't need that. How are you doing?
Well, I expected that, but I think the thing that's extraordinary about what happened to both me and to Michael Schellenberger, the other witness, is...
More you than him. But also Schellenberger was incredibly douchey. I've only seen his tweets before. This is my first time seeing him in person. And his opening statement was, as we covered on the show, was as douchey, if not more so. By the way, that guy behind him with the beard, the bald dude or whatever, apparently, I don't know who he is, but he's a big fan. He was just perturbed every time someone cast aspersions in Matt's direction.
They would never...
And look at him. He just nods lovingly at everything Matt says while he's there. Like, you tell him, Matt.
...treat a New York Times reporter like that or a Washington Post reporter like that and suggest that it was somehow, wrong for a reporter to make money, which...
I'm going to go out on a limb here, kiddo. I'm guessing that this committee, the Democrats especially, have no mandate, authority, or purpose to even call witnesses to present the idea that, I don't know, that everybody at the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and everywhere else, and even the people who write books and do very well, like Bob Woodward or other folks like that, don't deserve every dime they make. I'm going to go with, perhaps, it's that you're not actually making money as a journalist right now. You are making money because Elon Musk is throwing you cash to hash through details that he selectively gives you to create a narrative to push back on something because he tricked himself into buying Twitter and now he's pissed.
Came out during the hearing. They asked me if I'd been paid to testify, which was totally outrageous. They called...
So you were. Totally, it was outrageous, was it? Was it untrue, though? because you know how that, you know, that's how that works. Outrageous works that way. Outrageous is a great word because someone suggesting you did something awful can be outrageous in and of itself. It can cause outrage in a myriad of quarters. But saying it's outrageous is not an actual rebuttal of the accusation at all.
All this a direct threat to people who oppose them. That's very ominous language for the government to talk about with regard to journalists. And again, they would never do that with somebody they considered one of their own.
Or a real journalist, I think. If you weren't writing on a Substack magazine that was financed by Elon Musk doing specifically this project for him. I think that's the part. I will say that, let's say Jeff Bezos was engaged in a massive bank fraud or something along those lines, and Washington Post reporters did not cover it or blamed, you know, I don't know, Jamie Dimon, some other financial billionaire, for what happened at Jeff Bezos's, you know, mutual fund, that kind of thing. And then they got brought in front of the finance committee or any of those stuff, and they were asked about this because they had quit working for the New York Times or something, and they'd gone to work for Jeff Bezos's Washington Post, and they were only writing financial articles that were glowing reviews of him, and in many ways, like, fomented the idea that everybody else except him was to blame for exactly what happened. Then I think the questions would be quite similar, as a matter of fact.
Which, you know, a typical mainstream reporter. So that, yeah, I think that was very, very disturbing what happened yesterday.
Emotionally.
Matt, you know, I don't know your politics. Frankly, I don't care. But I know you're a journalist, not a so-called journalist. And I really want...
How? Asshat, you didn't even read the Twitter files. That's why you had to get him to explain it. Because notice Bonghole, and by the way, and you only gave him 4 minutes. 4 minutes. This motherfucker has been doing the Twitter files for months. He sat down in front of that committee for a few hours. And the end result was 4 minutes on Bongholio. I'm guessing that Murdoch and that crowd were not impressed with the performance. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
I want to thank you. It's guys like you that are going to save this space, the journalism space. Thanks for your time.
Hey, Sean.
Yes, the journalism space. It's a safe space. We need a safe space for journalists. Thanks, Bongholio. But again, in many ways, effectively a conspiracy theory. The biggest problem they had and why they wanted to have him on and play that particular clip is that tinfoil hat comment, because the idea is that their conspiracy theory, the air went out of the tires this week. It was complete ass. If you haven't been paying attention, or you only read the first couple of the Twitter files, which is what a lot of people do, by the time you get to the 5th or the 7th one, which is the equivalent of the 3rd paragraph, and it goes, also, everybody asked for stuff to be taken down, and sometimes Twitter did, and sometimes they didn't, which is the opposite of censorship. It is just ridiculous. It's so fucking lame. And they have forced, in many ways, to say it over and over again. They couch it in smaller ones. You'll notice that he often will put that statement in a single regular tweet with none of the pictures. Like, he'll do screen cap, you know, of like a headline or something like that, or multiple ones in a particular tweet. But in between those will be a little one that says, well, of course, Democrats did this occasionally. And Twitter would sometimes say yes and sometimes say no. And bury that in this avalanche of horse shit, which is effectively a Twitter gish gallop from this dickhead. But, the reason is why they're upset is because this is like the Durham report or any of this other shit. It is just deflating. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, share the show, by the way. Share it out to other folks. There's an even bigger conspiracy right around the corner. And Cowboy Glenn is on the beat. What's China doing in Hawaii? And what's Glenn doing in a life preserver? Stort thinks he's going to drown. Who's the U-boat commander? So, mysterious Hawaii lasers update. What is China doing there? Now, if you don't know, China has been scanning, They scanned areas of Malaysia. They've done it in Hawaii. The idea is that they're like doing topographical laser scans of stuff. It's like, and by the way, just like Google Maps, that's an ongoing thing that multiple countries do. Is China doing it for nefarious reasons? Very possibly. Are they also doing it because the idle hands are the devil's workshop and they just need fucking something to keep their scientists busy? That's also possibly true. And we only notice it in Hawaii because we give a shit. We don't give a shit when they go out in the middle of the ocean per se and do this stuff. But let's see what Glenn thinks. There you go. Yeah, so first, government told us the lasers were part of a routine NASA exercise to measure the size of the Earth, but then the story changed, and now in this clip, Glenn presents more information about what China could possibly be doing with a dual-purpose supersonic satellite over Hawaii. Okay, a supersonic satellite, which, by the way, is one of my favorite Our Lady Peace records. Supersonic satellite. Expialidocious. All right, here we go. I can't wait. It's going to be so good.
Do you remember, Pat, the
Oh dear, he's traded in Stu for Pat.
The lasers that were
the green lasers,
quote, measuring Hawaii.
Right.
Yeah. So that happened, Sarah, about a month ago. About a month ago. This video came out that showed this green laser kind of just tracking Hawaii. Just all the
because I don't know if you know this, Hawaii's on the move.
These little laser beams coming down from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was I don't know if like Pink Floyd's touring again, and they're doing it from a blimp.
And what they said was, don't worry, but we do this all the time. It's NASA. We're measuring the Earth. And I thought,
because I thought we knew a while ago
how big the Earth.
How big the Earth.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought.
Hi, asshat. By the way, when they talk about that, they aren't talking about. And by the way, I don't even know if what he's saying is true about what NASA supposedly said, because they tend to mix stories and sources. Glenn has I guess that's what the fucking chalkboard is for, because he has a real hard time keeping track of where he heard things and what they pertain to and who said them. It's a travesty. But in this particular instance, when they measure the Earth, they're not measuring the size of the Earth. They're measuring sea level and the mountain ranges and areas, because especially in volcanic areas, they tend to change over time. And
but no. This is for global warming. Apparently, the water weight. We're losing some water weight, and so we, tighten our belt a little bit. I guess I don't know, but that didn't seem.
That was supposed to be a fat joke about Earth, or one behind Stu's back. We'll find out.
Like a logical answer to me, because I've lived a few times, a few days.
Yes, in his lifetime, he's lived a few times.
And since we've had lasers, and I've never seen us measure the Earth. And you'd think if we do that all the time,
you would see it from time to time.
Some of us might have seen it.
Courtesy video. Is that like a reach around? Courtesy of video. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that one didn't fly. So then after the balloon happened with China, it came out that wasn't a NASA satellite.
No.
Well, it wasn't a NASA satellite. So apparently our government lied to us yet again. Not a government satellite. It's a weather satellite, but it's a Chinese weather satellite.
Oh, okay.
And
so they were just inspecting the weather with lasers?
Well, what they do, they were worried about the pollution in Hawaii. And so they were measuring.
The Chinese were worried about
the pollution in Hawaii. Yeah,
pollution.
Of course.
Okay.
And so they were measuring.
How many people think? Well, let's see. Okay, hold on one second. Before I dive into what Glenn's ability to perceive things. Let's see. Hawaii Chinese laser. That should do it, right? Let's see. February 21st, February 14th, February 13th. So, hold on. I can't read. I can't watch the popular mechanics ones because they won't let me read the article because grumble. Let's go with Newsweek. Here we go. So a month ago, according to Glenn, NASA said that that was their satellite, and that we, quote unquote, we were measuring the Earth's circumference or some shit, right? That's what he said. Am I? Hold on one second. Let me back this story up a little bit.
No.
Well, yeah, it wasn't a NASA. It came out that that wasn't a NASA satellite.
Okay.
You would see it from time to time.
Some of us might have seen it.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. So that one didn't fly. So then after the balloon happened with China, it came out that that wasn't a NASA satellite.
No.
Well, yeah, it wasn't a NASA satellite.
After the balloon. Okay, so let's see. Chinese spy balloon was date. Well, the problem is, yeah. February 14th, trade war, semiconductors, now balloons threatening derail, possibility of different. So February 2nd, yeah, the U.S. So the balloon was actually before the lasers. The balloon that we're talking about was February 2nd. Right? That's, here you go. February 2nd, senior U.S. defense official tells reporters the U.S. is tracking a flying object that is very high confidence. The object is a Chinese high-altitude balloon. We all recall that, right? You remember that? Okay. And interestingly enough, this was February 14th. China's green space layers and why what we do know and what we don't know. The response to the appearance of several flying objects over the U.S. soil has sparked questions over potential foreign presence in domestic airspace. As the White House responded to incidents in Michigan, Alaska, video has been shared across social media suggesting Chinese spy satellites have begun projecting lasers into U.S. territory. A tweet sent by user at Terror Alarm February 9th, again, after the balloon, which included a copy of the video. Alert, as if the balloon was not enough, a Chinese environment monitoring satellite beams green lasers from space over Hawaii. Another tweet by Hodge Twins. Oh, man, the Hodge Twins. Yeah, it's a damn good show. Posted February 10th. It's been viewed more than 6.2 million times. Added, China is shining green lasers down to Earth from space from their satellites. This is near Hawaii. This doesn't seem good. Full video was shared on YouTube showing what looked like a wall of vertical green lights. First posted January 2023, the official count of Subaru telescope, a 8.2 meter optical infrared telescope in Mauna Kea, stated it captured green laser lights in the cloudy sky over Hawaii. The lights are thought to be from a remote sensing altimeter satellite. Description under the video stated last night was cloudy, blah, blah, blah. Our keen viewers did not miss the event. This was a mysterious view. Later, viewers got a conclusion. The information on this net, it could be a remote sensing laser from ICS SAT 2/46-630. ICE Cloud Land Elevation Satellite, right? Again, okay. Is a NASA satellite that uses laser pulses from measure that a few days later, however, the team left another message. It's YouTube stating that according to Dr. Martino Anthony J., a NASA scientist working on that, it is not by the instrument, but by others. Right, so NASA didn't claim it was them. The government didn't claim it was them. Fucking Reddit astronomers said it was NASA because they assume most things in space that are that powerful are NASA. And then that's what. So, but according to this was switched in the narrative by the government.
So apparently our government lied to us.
See that? There you go. What more conspiracy do you need?
Yet again.
Yes, they lied to us again by telling us the truth, specifically from a government agency after other people had speculated about another reality.
Not a government satellite.
By the way, level 1 hype train on Twitch, twitch.tv/Hellspark.
It's a weather satellite, but it's a Chinese weather satellite.
Oh, okay. So
And-
they were just inspecting the weather with lasers?
Well, what they do, they were
By the way, and again, weather and topographical, but still, like the fact that they're like, what? Lasers? They cut through clouds like butter?
worried about the pollution in Hawaii.
Okay, again, I don't know where the fuck that's coming from. I think this is just his cute little aside, but Pat thinks he read it somewhere.
And so they were measuring
The Chinese were worried about
the pollution in
Hawaii's
Hawaii. Yeah,
pollution.
of course.
Okay.
And so they were measuring the
That's
amount
kind
of
of sweet of them, isn't it?
It is very nice, very
Yeah.
kind. Well, they're
Yeah.
very, very global warming conscious.
Oh, I know. I heard that. I
yeah,
heard that
yeah,
from
yeah,
Jennifer
yeah.
Granholm.
Right. So we have a lot to learn from them. They can measure the particles in the air with a satellite with green lasers.
God, that's incredible.
We don't do that.
No.
So that one seemed a little odd.
Well, yeah, that's just because, Glenn, your head is a blender for details.
Yeah.
And maybe a little too nice for China to do. It has now come out and said, well, okay, all right. That satellite has a dual purpose. Okay.
Everything that China puts in space has a dual purpose.
It not only can measure, pollution.
It can clean it up?
Well, no, it can
No.
just measure it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And not only can it do that, but it also
If he says land elevation topographical,
can be used to target their new hypersonic missile because it needs very accurate targeting. So what this
what?
climate change satellite does is it comes down and it measures all the pollution, but it also could measure exactly the topography.
Motherfucker. The ISAT-2, standing for Ice, Cloud, and Land Elevation Satellite 2, that's what we have as well. Technically speaking, what are they worried that the hypersonic missile will crash into a mountain if they don't exactly know the elevation? Are you out of your fucking mind? It's not a targeting satellite. They're not holding a target point on Hawaii. What I tell you? What I tell you was coming. What did I say? Topographic. This motherfucker. He wound it up. I was like, where's he going with this shit? And then he ends up right exactly just standing in a field with his dick in his hand, just like I thought.
And make sure
And if they have a map, they can target anything. Jesus Christ.
that the hypersonic missiles have an exact location to hit.
But
What do you think most people ballpark their hypersonic missiles, you fucking tool? The fuck are you talking about? This is just lame. Look how happy he is, and look how confused Pat is.
fortunately, we're talking about the Chinese here, and we
Right,
know they
so
have
it's-
no ill will
No, it's-
toward us.
No.
So
No.
you don't need to worry about that particular aspect of it.
No.
It's just a measurement thing.
They're
How big-
measuring the density of the atmosphere. That's what they're doing.
Oh,
Pat.
okay. How dense is
Yeah.
it? The atmosphere.
It's pretty well.
Is it
I think
dense?
over America, I think it's
We're pretty
very
dense.
dense.
Yeah.
Very dense.
All right, why don't you just do spots for the Chinese, Glenn, if you're just going to shit talk the American people? Why don't you move there if everybody's fucking smart? I've been there. Have you?
You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
So
Yes, well, I mean, that's your opinion of your viewers, I suppose.
yeah, apparently it's the hypersonic missile. It doesn't like weather, and sometimes there's weather,
Yeah,
so they need to do the
that's unfortunate.
laser.
The dumb, like it hurts. It like it's like does it ever make your bones ache when somebody's that fucking stupid? This is amazingly dumb. This is brutally ignorant, self-serving bullshit. Like, Jesus Christ, this is idiotic. What did they, look, okay, so they use their superfine green light laser system to topographically judge the area of Hawaii that they might want to hit for some fucking reason with their hypersonic missiles, probably because there are U.S. nuclear subs between Hawaii and China somewhere in the ocean, and who the fuck needs to find those? Let's hit Hawaii because it worked so well for the Japanese last time. So the plan is to scan, because their hypersonic missiles are so finely tuned that even the slightest wind can put them off, or the density of the atmosphere, the barometric pressure of places like Hawaii might fuck with them. So they've got to target it immediately and then fire within a certain, 10 months, 2.5 years. So they took precise measurements to make sure that it would hit exactly, and because of the weather, and which never changes, and and then they didn't launch a
thing, which is kind of nice. You know, you get like it's like a Pink Floyd moment right before you're vaporized. You know, whoa, look at the cool lasers in the sky. And you hold your lighter up or your phone. You're like,
by the way, is anybody else like stunned by the fact that Glenn's vest and shirt combo looks particularly disgusting? And is it just me? Hold on one second. It gives off a specific vibe. See if I can. It's the wrong color, but it's kind of the generalized shape that just that it's that same yellow. I don't know why. Oh, look at my tetes. Yeah. Yeah. There's a bit of that. And also like he washed up on shore.
yeah, rock. It's great.
You don't even get to on.
No, you
get
don't.
Rock
Of course,
on.
no,
Just
of
rock. Okay.
Really, Pat? People yell rock on, do they? Was this a Michael Damian show?
Of course you don't. Of course you don't. By the way, you remember Naomi Wolf?
Yes.
Okay.
Author, liberal.
Yeah. Part of
feminist.
Yeah, and third wave feminist, and I believe part of the Clinton administration at one point, wasn't she? She came out and wrote a letter to conservatives.
Yeah, I love it.
And she said, Republicans and conservatives, I'm sorry. I believed wholesale so much else that has turned out to be not as I was told it was.
Stop. Wait, hold on. There's a wholesale? And they're not even waiting for Labor Day?
So much else that I believed wholesale.
Oh, my God. Not wholesale. Ho's got to eat. Winky, dinky, hoe cakes. Ho's got to eat. Wholesale. Yes, exactly. Hoe cakes. You better get a big one on this one. Winky, dinky, hoe cakes. Going to be big, Junior. Get on this one.
So much else that has turned out to be not as I was told it was by NPR, MSNBC, and the New York Times. Anyone in leadership who has misrepresented to the public the events of January 6th.
Oh, get out. Naomi Wolf went fucking right wing, you nut.
So as to distort the complexity of the actual history.
The complexity? Why? Because some people didn't go up there? We don't give a fuck who showed up and didn't go to the Capitol, stupid. Most of the people that watched Donald Trump that day didn't do anything. Yes, we know they went home. We're not concerned with them. We're concerned with thousands that attacked the Capitol on that day, built a gallows, and we're going to hang the vice president and stomped one of their own to death, tried to kill police officers.
Must be held accountable.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have been. If somebody went, hey, you shouldn't have said... Actually, you should have said that. You're right. Never mind.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Excuse me. Holy cow. Pronounce it right.
That's a brave statement from somebody.
So brave. She's so brave these days. She's so brave and not right-wing at all anymore.
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you should...
On the left. See yourself out.
See, I think it was in the... Oh, it was in the Times or Huffington Post. I can't remember.
I don't know. They all run together or whatever. But it was somebody. I heard somebody said it. It was probably the opposite of the person who said it. And I might get the dates and the details wrong, or the numbers, or the actual day it happened, or the order of the time and the sequence that it happened. It doesn't really matter. I've already made up my mind what it means. So, anyways, let me talk.
I read it, but they were talking about. Well, she went on Tucker Carlson about a year ago, so we worried about her bona fides back then. Oh, did you? She was seen with Tucker Carlson. She sold out.
Yeah, I think that's... By the way, these guys attack any Republican who goes on MSNBC at all. Not even like Rachel's show. Just anywhere near the letters.
Obviously a nut job now.
Well, of
right?
course.
I mean...
Have her on, Glenn. Have her on.
Only nut jobs would say, I am sorry to conservatives.
Is that... I'm sorry. How's that work, Pat? Is that... I'm sorry to conservatives. For what precisely? What are we supposed to be sorry for? Sorry that some of you belong to a subset of fucking sociopaths who attacked the Capitol and built a gallows and carried a Confederate flag and took a shit and stole a laptop from there and tried to sell it to the fucking Russians. Beat cops, over 100 of them. I mean, tried to murder a few of them. Like, we're planning on hanging your own party's vice president. I'm sorry, conservatives. I'm sorry. I am sorry. I'm sorry you're such losers that you can't stand up to that group in your party.
By the way, I don't know if you've been following what they're looking at in Washington about, the government silencing speech.
Okay. By the way, this video that we've been covering is entitled Mysterious Hawaii Lasers Update. What is China doing there? Well, that lasted about 3 minutes, something like that. 3 minutes, whatever. There we go. And then it went to somehow Naomi Wolf, who has become an acolyte in many ways of Tucker Carlson and friendly to the right-wing cause on a QAnon, seemingly a QAnon level. That was another chunk of the video. And then we're going to end up with this shit about Matt Taibbi.
The government lying about January 6th. But your friends should probably pay attention to it.
Your friend?
If you're not, you should too. But I have a feeling you are. But your friends should probably pay attention to it. Somebody needs to bring that to their attention. Because...
Bring what part? That the argument that Republicans are currently making, which is, if I may paraphrase, that Ashley Babbitt died a sucker because the whole thing was a setup. She was baited into going there, and she died for nothing. Nothing. All the Jan 6ers who admitted guilt and are going to jail, they're doing that because they were stupid enough to be lured into it by Antifa, BLM, and the FBI. They just they got caught up in a moment and committed multiple felonies and attacked police officers because somebody whispered into somebody's ear 25 feet away, and they went, well, I brought the bear spray, I might as well use it while I film myself on Facebook punching a cop. Like, if only they had known that it was all just a big game being played.
The people I talk to that have who are only listening to the New York Times and CNN and NPR have no
NPR. Yeah, NPR is really it's gotten really bad over there. Just straight up commies. They're even talking about January 6th like it shouldn't have happened.
Idea how corrupt our government has become.
Well, obviously, we watched the beginning of the video, and NASA was covering up for China. So thanks, Glenn. We have some idea now. Oh, by the way, would that be a lie of omission or just dipshittery?
And I would be saying this if it was happening under a Trump administration.
No, you wouldn't. Asshole, most of the things that are coming out in the weaponization of blah, 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 and by the way, actually January 6th itself, if the FBI set it up and they were all manipulated, that happened while Trump was fucking president. It did happen under the Trump administration. The Biden campaign, they'd won the election, but they hadn't actually moved into power. They hadn't had their fucking votes certified yet.
I'd be ringing the bell. You are in deep trouble.
Deep undercover.
The government has gone awry just a little bit. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think it is.
It is, Glenn. Now, you're not alone in being a conspiratorial moron. And I will say, in defense of my dear friend Dee Snider from Twisted Sister and his own solo stuff and Widowmaker, if you haven't heard that record, it's rock solid. I will say on his behalf that a good portion of conspiracy theories are claptrap, garbage. And they are used by people who want to manipulate the panic and anxiety of sponge-headed morons to draw them into like spackling the gaps in their knowledge or their willingness to look into things with a mystery force behind things. It is the equivalent of saying that disease is caused by the ethers between bodies or negative spirits in the gut that move from one person to the other. Same thing. And Glenn Beck works on that entirely, which is why he talks in half measures, why he spouts this shit off without ever going anywhere near having some sort of logical reasoning behind what he's saying. It's sort of like cute end is nigh bullshit. Like he's literally making the end of the world kind of like, well, I guess we're all doomed. And because you have to keep it at that level to keep people listening. And that's the only way you could sell your prepper food. Now, I have to check something real quick. Monday. Okay, so this doesn't start for another 10 minutes. Okay, we'll see. Let me pause this. Because God help us, I'm not going to be covering this whole fucking thing. I got my kid and I have plans. Just saying. Yeah. That said, he's in Iowa because he's got to go there before DeSantis does. Hey, don't point your finger at me. So, we'll dip into that and see what's up. But another one is, there are two types of conspiracies out there. They're the big, all-encompassing, swampy, deep state, Illuminati, Rothschilds, behind the scenes, the bankers, the military-industrial complex pulling the strings, and every policy is there just to benefit them, including the depopulation of the earth, Bill Gates buying farmland. Oh my God, he's going to microchip all of us, because that's always been his goal since he made Windows 7, which was his first attempt at killing all of us through frustration. And then there is the soft-pedaled paranoid delusions that our dear friends like Greg Kelly have. And they come not in the form of there's something going on here, the Russell Brand style. They know they've always been, this is their plan, and this is who's out to get you. It comes with this whole like, when you get information that proves that you are full of shit, your response was, I don't know. And you think, I don't know, is a conversationally weaponizable attitude, that it is functional in discourse. It ain't. I also, this is, let's see, this is Greg Kelly. This is the description of Greg Kelly. I'm still not buying it. Greg Kelly rips Chuck Schumer for bad-mouthing the new Jan 6 footage as, quote, edited material, which it is. You don't have, it's in quotes on here. Look, hold on, I'll show you. Quote, edited material. It is actually edited. Like, no one, that's not even in question. And it's edited without time code stamps, without continuity. Yeah. Reacts to Joe Biden vowing for capital gains hikes for Americans that would be more than China's, because nobody gets to realize capital gains. So ask Jack Ma. Tell you what, Greg Kelly, have Jack Ma on your show and ask him what capital gains taxes are like in China. I'll wait. All right. This is Greg Kelly Reports. Here he goes.
All right. It's been a hell of a week. And we have to hand it to Tucker Carlson.
Well, yeah, he's not going to pick it up himself, you fucking plebe. That's what he's got servants for. He's a Swanson, goddammit.
He busted wide open some of the major lies about January 6th.
Did he? Oh, you mean the one that, like, Ashley Babbitt was a true believer and she actually went there to do something and it turns out she was just a dipshit who died for nothing, Greg? Your future wife he's talking about?
Quite frankly, I'm proud to work at a network where we have amplified that information. It's important. People need to know about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get access to that footage. And if we did, it would have, obviously, the minute we looked at any of it, we would realize that he was fucking with us. But, I mean, it's not like we would let people know.
And I'm disappointed in major portions of the conservative media.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Which portions would that be?
That downplayed his very important reporting.
His important reporting. It's very important reporting. You're reporting what's unimportant, and that's unimportant to me, but it's still reported.
One item, the Horns guy, the so-called face of the insurrection, well, he was actually assisted by police.
No, he wasn't. We've seen this dipshittery before. Please.
In astounding travels throughout the Capitol captured on security camera footage. He passed officer after officer who had no problem with him whatsoever.
No, asshole. Again, we've covered this. These guys are guarding a doorway, making sure this asshole doesn't go through it. That way, right back there, and down this way. So they don't give a fuck if he comes from there and goes back that way. As a matter of fact, they're on orders to make sure he doesn't go any further. But he's so stupid, he's just following this guy.
They all had guns. He didn't, and nothing.
Yeah, why didn't they shoot him? You're right. They could have shot him like Ashley, and he could have died for nothing, just like her. Right, Greg?
Happened. Also, Brian Sicknick, the Capitol Hill police officer, he died on January 7th.
Yes, we know. He had a stroke later that night, related to the stress he was under and the attacks he had endured, and he died the next morning. They had to unplug him. Yes, we know. Nobody said he died at the Capitol that day.
And this footage shows that he is alive and well.
Again, straw man, total straw man.
When they said he had already been attacked.
He had been attacked. He had been attacked. But the impact didn't get him till later.
Now, Tucker had exclusive access to the security camera footage, tens of thousands of hours, access that was denied to January 6 defendants and denied.
Well, it was also denied to you, Greg, and everyone else, and there might be a reason for that. Also, it was not denied them. They were convicted on their own footage.
To the rest of the country.
They were convicted when they were filming themselves going, this is me being a fucking asshole. There might be other moments where I'm not being one, but I'm not going to film those because it's important that everybody at home know just what an unpatriotic, dangerous prick I'm being. By the way, see these moccasins? Sweet, right? I didn't even have to hit a cop to get in this place, but I did step in some blood on my way in. Hope nobody does a DNA test on my shoe.
It is time for Kevin McCarthy to make this video available to the American people.
Yeah, but then that really, you don't think the other news organizations aren't gonna look at the footage, put up a video that shows the order and the arrangement of the video by Tucker Carlson was manipulative? No?
And at this point, there really are no plausible excuses to keep this material out of our hands.
Yes, there is, Greg. That's because this dipshit is trying to help you in being a dipshit. Because if he releases all of it, when he's going to have to, at some point it's going to break. It's going to fuck with the entire narrative that Tucker is trying to create. So what he's trying to do is give Tucker enough time to dig the truth hole deep enough so that it's harder for people to spackle it shut, or they're like, I don't believe anything MSNBC. They edited that shit. This is all edited. They got access to the footage. They're not posting anybody. Like MSNBC will use timestamps. They'll put everything in order. They'll show the extent of the clips. They'll show what was taken off of it and what was put on, and it'll make Tucker's stuff look like the propaganda that it is, and Kevin McCarthy knows this, and Greg's too stupid to figure it out.
The security stuff, I'm not buying it, actually. I could see the FBI going to great lengths to keep something very embarrassing out of our hands.
But not out of Tucker's. This is getting into Alex Jones, like, I'm not going to tell you this stuff, that I'm probably going to get me killed. You know, if I even talk about this stuff, I'm a dead man or whatever, but I got to do this because truth is my game. 10 years ago. 9 years ago, if I even mention this stuff, they're setting up snipers, but I need you, the audience, to know this, what's really going on here. But 8 years later, I'm probably going to get killed if I even tell you this, but...
This might be what they're really worried about.
Did you have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters inside the Capitol on January?
Well, first of all, he's not going to talk about sources and methods, but also confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters. That's a tough one because there were confidential human sources in there that were Trump supporters. Ray Epps is a Trump supporter.
January the 6th.
And can you give us a list of their names so that we can hunt them down and put a bullet in their dome for next time?
Prior to the doors being open?
Again, I had to be very careful.
It should be a no. Can you not tell the American people no? We did not have confidential human sources dressed.
Again, why wouldn't they have, on a day when thousands of people are talking about for days heading to the Capitol and doing all kinds of crazy shit and bringing guns and all that kind of stuff, that the FBI or anybody, local police, whatever, wouldn't have some people walking around keeping tabs? Anybody? And by the way, do you think that the Trump crowd and whatnot wanted confidential human sources inside, I don't know, the BLM protests, for example?
As Trump supporters positioned inside the Capitol.
Gentleman's time has expired.
You should not read anything into my decision not to share information.
Director Ray,
confidential human
gentleman's time has expired.
Very angry there and nervous and flustered.
Because they're just using the lack of candor that he's not allowed to say these things. So they're using the fact that he's not allowed to do it to spackle it with fucking conspiracy theories. That's always the problem. That's why the CIA is the main target for dipshit conspiracy theorists all the fucking time. Anything the CIA does, like, oh my God, the fucking CIA. There was a woman who used to work for the CIA who looked into stuff for Twitter at one point or whatever, and they're like, she fucking looked at, she used to work for the CIA. I'm like, yeah, because she's an intelligence gatherer and disseminator. She understands how large groups of information and how to spot bullshit and reality. That's the gig there. Read a fucking book by any of these people. That's their whole show. Like, we're not talking about fucking James Bonds running around all the time. A lot of these people are just looking at files all the fucking... Go watch 3 Days of the Condor, for Christ's sake. If you want a pop culture reference on it, it's fucking boring half the time. And the idea, like, well, the CIA... Because the CIA can't tell you. So it's perfect. It's the perfect foil. The DOD, the Pentagon, it's like the Pentagon budget. It's a perfect foil for conspiracy theorists both inside and outside the country because they can't tell you, even if they wanted to. Even if they're completely innocent, they can't tell you. So you get it just like, well, I probably killed that guy. That's probably they did that themselves. Fucking yeah. No, that's probably even if the event that you find hinky did not benefit the United States, they're like, well, and obviously they're trying to destroy the American, the way of life, and if they did do it, if it did benefit the United States, like, well, obviously it was so that America could seize oil or because we wanted dominance over fucking Guam. You know what I mean? Like, you can always spackle a conspiracy in the gap in your knowledge because it will be a permanent gap, and it's the same shit here. Now, in all fairness, there are permanent gaps in Greg Kelly's knowledge anyway.
So is that why we can't see all the footage? Because we'll be able to...
No, you can't see all the footage because Tucker Carlson fucking hates you. That's why, Greg. Tucker Carlson thinks you're too stupid to handle it. Not as a newsman, which you aren't, but as an individual, as a human being. Tucker, you're a baby, Greg. You're a fledgling. He's gotta eat all that conspiratorial footage, masticate it, grind it in his gizzard, and vomit it into your tiny little mouth. Because if you tried to digest it on your own, you would die.
To identify FBI agents waiting in the Capitol.
Waiting in the Capitol? Wait a minute. Hold on. This is the first I'm hearing of maybe FBI agents being in the Capitol. And they waited. All right. Greg, God damn it. How would FBI agents dressed as MAGA supporters instigate something that was happening outside? That's a new level of dumb. That's amazing. Trump's live right now. Should we jump over to speaking of amazingly dumb? All right, let's go. Where is he? He's in Davenport, Iowa. Hold on. Do I have to reload this fucking page?
Secretary of Agriculture. I said, Sonny, let me ask you a question. I want you to figure out over the next couple of days or sooner, how much money
over the next couple of days or sooner
China to rip off our farmers in this country.
Oh my God! He's just kissing Iowa farmer ass. And I said $28 billion. So I said, give the $28 billion to our farmers. Socialism.
To tell me, he got back to me and he gave me it on a yearly count over a few years, but the total was $28 billion. And I told China, you have to pay it. And you know what? They paid it. They paid it.
No, they didn't.
And many of the people in this audience got a check.
Yeah, government check. It's terrible. And you turned it right in because you're good conservative.
Took it out of the tariffs that I charged China. We had a lot of money left over. I can tell you that. We had hundreds of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions left over. We took.
Okay, so Ukraine's not a problem then. I thought that we were taking money from other areas, but we got that left over from the fucking tariffs, and they never stopped, so cool.
A lot of money. We saved the steel industry. We saved a lot of industries. We handed checks to the farmers for $28 billion. Did anybody get a check in this room for the farmers? Because you got to be. Yes, good. Not as many as I would have thought. You all got.
Uh-huh. That's amazing.
Checks to the farmers for $28 billion. Did anybody get a check in this room for the farmers? Because you got to be. Yes, good. Not as many as I would have thought. You all got checks, but maybe you're not in that business. But
you all got checks, you fucking freeloaders, you government saps.
We're all with the farmers, and they got $28 billion. Nobody saw that one coming. That was one that they said, this is incredible. But he also made a deal with China, and the deal with China was a phenomenal one.
Yeah, it was great. Phase 1 of 3 phases, and they did a third of 1 phase. It's phenomenal.
My people wanted $15 billion in agricultural purchase. I said, you have to buy. And otherwise, we're not going to do business with you and other things other than the farms.
Yeah. By the way, he's saying this to China that has to import 80% of their food.
And I said, what's the number? 15 billion. I said, did I hear you correctly? I thought they said 50 billion, right? They said 15 billion. I said, I think I heard 50 billion, asked for 50 billion, and they agreed. And that's why you're still doing well today, Kim. You're doing so well today.
Yeah, you guys aren't broke because of you now. I mean, obviously, you're doing great, not because you're doing great, but because we did great for a deal with the Chinese. So you have the Chinese to thank for what the shit?
Even though they aren't totally living up to it, it's still more money than anybody thought possible. And the reason they're not
listen to the silence in that fucking room.
Totally living it up is I have no respect for the Biden administration, but still more money. That's why the farmers are continuing to do well.
By the way, China bought about, it was $30 billion for the phase one. They bought a little over 10.
But China and the USMCA were just the beginning of our fight for the American farmer. I also...
By the way, two Brazilian brothers who own, they're Brazilianaires, who own farmland in the United States got money from that program. They're not even Americans. Like, he gave it to the big ags.
Got Japan to slash or eliminate tariffs on over 90% of U.S. food and agricultural exports. People knew that. What a difference it made. I dealt with the great Prime Minister Abe. He was my friend of Japan. And that one who, unfortunately, as you know, was assassinated by a madman. But what a great man he was, and his people loved him. But he was very fair to us, and we opened it up because we were being treated very unfairly by Japan, as we are by almost everybody, I have to tell you. I can't think of anybody that we made a better deal. It's hard to believe that we survived, but of course, we do have $34 trillion in debt. So I don't know if you call that survival. You know, eventually that comes back to haunt you, right?
Yes, it will, considering 10 of it is you.
But we didn't make any good deals. We had no good deals, so we made a lot of them great, and some of them phenomenal. The European Union agreed to nearly triple its beef imports and opened the markets to American soybeans at a level that nobody thought was going to happen. I also won.
By the way, he's saying this in fucking Iowa because he's like, but soybeans, sure. So, yeah. Meanwhile, the rest of the time, all of his people use soy boy as a pejorative of choice.
Our farmers' gigantic concessions from South Korea, Argentina, Brazil, Guatemala, Tunisia, Ecuador, Morocco, and many, many more. I was working very hard on Europe, and that was going to be a deal that was done because they don't treat us very well. Europe, believe it or not, you know, it sounds nice. A lot of us indirectly come from Europe. Sounds very nice, but they treat us very bad on trade.
A lot of us, obviously the white of us, but sure. Yeah, but the important thing is that, you know, the soybeans, the EU managed, oh shit. Trump's soybean deal with the EU is actually pretty insignificant. It's a testament to the power of the tiny soybean, or actually the political power of the farmers that grow them, that the Trump White House has been scrambling this week to appease growers' complaints about the consequences of the president's ill-thought-out trade war. But the president's latest maneuver will do nothing to alleviate the harm caused by his own bellicose trade policies. First, there was an attempt to buy farmer support, with the White House announcing it would spend $12 billion through a New Deal-era crop insurance program to bail out farmers harmed by the tariffs. That's what he was talking about, the 20s splitting it. This is the policy equivalent of lending a garden hose to the fire department after setting your house on fire and then sticking taxpayers with the water bill. Then on Tuesday, Trump was eager to announce the bare bones of a trade deal with the European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker that would see the EU importing more soybeans. Soybeans are critical battleground in the trade war because the United States produces so damn many of them. Farmers planted more than 89 million acres of soybeans across the United States in 2018, narrowly edging out the 88 million acres of corn that were planted. According to annual survey by the Department of Agriculture, the United States is the world's largest exporter of soybeans, with nearly half of the U.S. crop exported annually. And China is the largest importer of them. There are a few singular projects that better illustrate the benefits of global trade between the world's two largest economies than the humble soybean. But it was only after this year's soybean crop was already planted that Trump announced his tariffs on steel, aluminum, and Chinese-made goods. China responded to those tariffs by targeting American soybean crop. Since then, the price of soybeans has fallen dramatically, leaving American farmers in the lurch. There you go, U.S. and Brazil FOB soybean flat price spreads from that's the Twitter. That's why, at first blush, yesterday's joint announcement by Trump and Juncker appears to be a positive development. And to be fair, any indication of a ceasefire in the trade war is welcome, but a mere handshake agreement to send more soybeans across the Atlantic won't make up for the reduction in exports caused across the Pacific. For starters, that's because the European Commission doesn't actually have authority over how many soybeans Europe imports. It doesn't procure soybeans for European markets, and it doesn't tell European businesses where to buy their soybeans. Oh, God.
Very badly on trade. And even if you look at the war, if you look at what's going on, we're at about 150 billion, and they're at about 25 billion. I would say that's not right, you know. Somebody's got to tell them. All you have to do is say, listen, you're delinquent. You got to up it. You got to up it. It's not fair to our country. But we had an election that was not a good situation.
It was not good.
Not good at all. You've seen a lot of the reasons for it's a disgrace.
Yes, it's a lot of reasons for it's a disgrace. Yes. Yeah, I mean, you would obviously have an opinion on that. That would probably be because you lost horribly.
More votes than any sitting president.
Yes, and your opponent got more votes by far than any challenger in American history. Also population higher than other times when obviously it's not a per capita number, but you know.
History by a lot, by millions. We got 75 million votes more.
Yes, he got 75 million more votes than he did the first time.
That's what they report.
Yeah, that's what they report. Everybody's been saying, I don't know why they won't say it, that he beat Biden by 75 million votes. Every child in this country, whether ambulatory or verbal or not, hobbled their way down in their poopy pants, down to the ballot box and wanted to vote on, they put on their great bonnet and they said, I'm proud to vote. They went down and voted twice for Trump.
They say the other guy got 80. I don't think so. He did one hell of a job from his basement.
He did.
But
well, this is kind of a dud tonight. Maybe it's not mic'd like normal.
That's what it is. It's a very...
He's definitely got some fans there, but a big portion of those folks are like, when does DeSantis come on?
Sad situation. In total, I successfully negotiated and renegotiated more than 50 agreements to boost farm exports by more than $60 billion, supporting millions and millions of American jobs, and right here in this room and right here in Iowa.
What the fuck are you supposed to do? Attack them? There you go. That's it.
That's what happens when you...
That's the best. That's the loudest we're going to hear from that crowd.
Have a president who stands up for America and who puts America first. It can be done. It can be done. I remember France.
I remember somebody's underpants.
Who I like a lot.
I do. France is a lovely dude.
But France...
I remember France, who I like a lot. All right.
They were going to put a tax on a lot of our business, almost all businesses.
Yeah, that's the French tax. It was like you can bring the products in, but we get to lick all of them. Just
stealing in France, and I said that's okay if they do that. And my people came back to me, smart people. Sir, they're going to put a tax on, and they won't negotiate. I said just go back and tell them they have to. It's not fair.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, weird. You cut me to the quick, monsieur. I was not expecting so sharp and keen a trade representative. The president himself must have picked hashtag the best people.
And you know who I'm talking about. And
no, we don't. Do you?
He's a good man. He's a friend.
What's his name?
Macron.
Okay, I see. Macron.
And I said, listen, here's what we have to do. If you want to do this, because my people came back.
Come back in here. If we want to make a deal, this is what the deal's going to be. Let me sit in here. Sit on. You want a cannoli?
sit down for a second. Say, no, talk to you for a second. We're just going to say something, and it's going to be, I'm going to make a deal you probably will refuse. Doesn't quite have the ring to it.
After like 2 weeks, they couldn't get anything. They got nothing, Kim. You have people that are better than that, I'll bet. But they couldn't get anything, and they were hard-working. They worked so hard.
They're the best people. I'm sorry, the best people.
So I called up the top people. I said, listen, here's the story.
Top men.
We're going to put a 100% tax on your wines, and your champagnes are coming to the United States because you're putting a...
That froze. I didn't stop it, by the way. That's on their end. That's playing.
Close enough. Here's the story. We're going to put a 100% tax on your wines, and your champagnes are coming to the United States because you're putting a...
Yeah, that froze where that was on their end. This is nonsense, by the way. Can you imagine just the ultimate trade war between us and the EU if we were like, we're going to put a 100% tariff on French wine to the United States? The fuck out of here. For what? Because you don't like the deal they're willing to go with?
Close enough. We're putting a 100% tariff or tax on every wine.
Honestly, there's no difference between tariff and tax. Just let both words work, even though they don't.
All of your wine, all of your champagne. Oh, we're going to miss it. We're going to miss
your fucking snails, your mustache wax, your fucking fromage.
Because at 100%, you're not going to be sending so much to us like you do now. And we'd like to think about this. They called up within an hour, and the whole tax thing was gone. We had no problems. It's sort of amazing.
Woo! Yeah. Hold on. Trump, French, tariff. Okay. The president imposing tariffs on French goods in response to... Here we go. Tech tab. This is what he's talking about. Sorry. Get out of here. U.S. will impose tariff on French goods in response to tech tax. The Trump administration said it would impose 25% tariffs on some French goods, but will delay collection of the levies. The Trump administration on Friday said it would impose new tariffs on $1.3 billion worth of French goods, including cosmetics, soap, handbags, in retaliation for French tax that largely hits American technology companies, escalating a trade dispute that threatens to further damage the global economy. Notably absent from the tariff list are the French cheese, sparkling wine, and cookware. Now, there's another one. This is the 100%. Here's where he said the 100%. Yeah, renewed a conflict between the countries to negotiate a temporary truce in August. Here you go. This is what he's talking about. French wine could face 100% tariffs as Trump confronts French over tech taxes. A report by the Office of the United States Trade Representative renewed a conflict between the countries which had negotiated a temporary truce in August. Because that's the art of the deal. It works. The Trump administration said on Monday that a new French tax that hit American technology companies discriminated against the United States, a declaration that could lead to retaliatory tariffs as high as 100% on French wines. It could also jeopardize international efforts to negotiate a truce on the so-called digital taxes. The announcement from the Office of the United States Trade Representative ended a months-long investigation into French tax, which hits companies like Facebook and Google, even though they have little physical presence in France. The investigation concluded that the tax discriminates against U.S. companies, is inconsistent with prevailing principles of international tax policy, and is unusually burdensome for affected U.S. companies. It recommended tariffs as high as 100%. So Trump didn't say this. The United States Trade Representatives recommended this, and Trump was the conveyor of it. Motherfucker. It recommended tariffs as high as 100% on certain French imports valued at $2.4 billion, including cheese, wine, and handbags. Trump, in London on Tuesday for a NATO summit, said the finding was justified. They're starting to tax other people's products, so there we go and tax them. Later in the day, Trump sounded more conciliatory. We have a minor dispute. I think we'll probably be able to work it out. He elaborated later, referencing Macron. The tech companies you're talking about are not my favorite people because they're not exactly for me, but that's okay. They're American companies. We want to tax American. We want to tax American companies. That's important. We want to tax them, not somebody else. He then referenced the 25% tariffs already levied on the European export. We tax wine and other taxes, have other taxes scheduled. We would rather not do that. It will either work out or we'll work out some mutually beneficial tax, and the tax will be substantial. So the Office of the United States Trade Representative, they came up with the number, not Trump. What? Well, I mean, you're shocked that he's lying and taking credit for what other people said and did. By the way, let's look at that back.
Tariff or
Sorry.
Kim, you have people that are better than that, I'll bet. But they couldn't get anything, and they were hard-working. They worked so hard. So I called up the top people. I said, listen, here's the story. We're going to put a 100% tax on your wines, and your champagnes are coming to the United States because you're putting a...
This motherfucker, literally, that's him taking credit. He's saying these people worked hard and they couldn't come up with anything. These are the people who came up with the 100% tax on wine, cheese specifically as a pushback on this kind of stuff. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it. 100%. I'm just going to call it. That's my deal. Just what a douchebag. Oh, and this is where it froze.
Close enough. We're putting a 100% tariff or tax on every wine, all of your champagne. Oh, we're going to miss it. We're going to miss it because at 100%, you're not going to be sending so much to us like you do now. And we'd like to think about this. They called up within an hour, and the whole tax thing was gone. We had no problems. It's sort of amazing.
By the way, this went on for months. He elaborated later, referencing pressure, Emmanuel tech companies, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. He then preferred the 25% tariff. France's economy and finance minister, Bruno Le Maire, Tuesday denounced the tariff threat as unacceptable and said that Europe would come ahead with a strong response without elaborating on possible retaliatory measures. So that must have been in 20 minutes after he talked to him, and then an hour later they were like, "Sorry, I get a little carried away. I was thinking we were going to have all this wine spoiling. It doesn't keep. And so I was guzzling a bunch of it. It was a mistake. So I called you all purple teethed and fucked up, and I made a mistake." This is not the sort of behavior we expect from the United States toward one of its main allies, France, and toward Europe in general, Mr. Le Maire said in an interview with Radio Classique. Trump administration suggests it could open similar investigations into digital taxes proposed by Italy, Australia, and Turkey. I don't even know why you'd bother to do that. You're just going to call them and threaten them with a 100% tax, and then an hour later they'll come and get your ass. And the finding does not immediately impose tariffs on French products such as wine, which is already hit with a 25% tariff in October. A separate dispute, but allows the president to impose them if and when he chooses. It could also upend an effort-led, an escalation of tensions between France and the United States would complicate any resolution to those negotiations. The French government approved the new digital service tax. Mr. Trump's trade representative responded to the French tax by opening the investigation into whether unfairly targeted American companies. In July, the president threatened to impose tariffs on French wine as a response to the new tax, but in August, French and American leaders reached a 90-day agreement. Those talks, which included an array of countries and multinational corporations, are making progress, said Bart LeBlanc, who is friends of La Mer, Confidences. If a nightingale could sing like you, he sing much better than you do. Now I'm going to Maurice Chevalier. There seems to be room for everybody to agree to this proposal, said Mr. LeBlanc, if everything falls into place. This is a lot happened in that hour. Some of the administration discussed opening a new investigation into European trade practices under legal authority known as Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 that could allow Mr. Trump to levy more tariffs. People familiar with the discussion said that is the same sort of investigation that the administration conducted in the case of the French digital tax, but there's no concrete sign that the administration has launched that process yet. Whole thing took an hour. He's like a gunslinger. He told them to suck his balls, and they were like, which one should I start on first? Woo! Thank you for bullshitting us. Thank you. There's very few things we like here better than being cornholed by a huckster from out of town. This is Iowa, after all.
But as our Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, said, at the end of the day, farmers are better off thanks to President Trump's policies, initiatives.
Really? The guy you hired to do the job and put in position and was your spokesperson said that? Wow, you really know how to pick them. What'd Tillerson say about you? You know, I retract that. You probably don't want to.
Trade policies and his incredibly strong support. According to the Economic Research Service, farm income.
Not the Economic Research Service. When the ERS speaks, people go, who? I'm sorry?
Is forecasted to be at its highest level. And this didn't just happen by accident. End of quote. He said this didn't happen by accident. He was a real pro, really understood the farming business. He could never believe what we were able to
Yeah, not like you assholes
do.
That didn't get a check. What the fuck? Who let the people who didn't get a check in here? Do I have to buy these votes 1-to-1? Shit.
Just a short period of time. And you're still getting the benefits, but it's slowly drifting away.
Yes, you're doing well, but you're not going to be doing well, and we got to fix that immediately because they already passed a farm bill, and the funding you might be under the impression that the checks you get from the government now are actually the result of a budget passed a year ago when Biden was president, and we can't have that.
It's just slowly drifting away.
It's slowly drifting away. You might even not notice it. You might be too busy eating out and going to movies and doing, you might forget how much you owe me for how hard you work.
Under Joe Biden, it has been a nonstop war on American agriculture. You know that Biden reimposed.
Really? Yes.
The waters of the United States rule. He reimposed it.
Yeah, the old waters of the United States rule. You know the thing that helps you get clean water to irrigate your crops?
One of the first days in office, he's trying to raise taxes on farms. He wants to reinstate the death tax, and fertilizer prices are now up by more than 300% for fertilizer.
It's because it's petroleum based, and a lot of that shit, that potash, comes from Russia. It's also not going to anymore, thanks to discoveries in Michigan, which has a Democratic governor who has backed up exploration in that area that will completely sever us from the need for Russian potash ever again. But please go on about how you know more about ISIS than the generals.
Net farm income is projected to fall by 16% this year alone.
Projected by whom?
And on top of it all, and if we didn't do what we did, 16% would be 75%.
Yeah, it's exactly. That's not normal. It's not even real, but it's way worse. It's gonna be. But you're still living off my tit, you freeloaders.
But with the insane Green New Deal, Joe Biden is trying to totally kill Iowa ethanol. By contrast, I fought for Iowa ethanol like no president in history.
I can't do this all night. I got shit to do. Oh, fuck you. Hold on. Yeah, he couldn't wait. He's just been terrible about it. Especially April of last year when he waived the ethanol rule. But President Joe Biden is visiting Corn-Rich, Iowa on Tuesday to announce he'll suspend a federal rule preventing the sale of higher ethanol blend gasoline this summer as his administration tries to tamp down prices at the pump that have spiked during Russia's war with Ukraine. This is an ongoing rule, by the way. The Environmental Protection Agency will issue an emergency waiver to allow widespread sale of 15% ethanol blend that is usually prohibited between June 1st and September 15th because of concerns that it adds to smog in high temperatures. Senior Biden administration officials said the move will save drivers an average of 10 cents per gallon at 2,300 gas stations. Members of Congress from both parties, as well as industry groups, have urged Biden to grant the E15 waiver. It's just I don't know. Maybe my tiny little brain is incapable of understanding the depth of the conspiracy here. That he hurts by helping, and then helps the hurt.
We've had great support. We've had really incredible support in that from
because people voted for him in Iowa,
your state, but not everybody supports it outside. Not the easiest sell outside of Iowa, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, I've got to go bullshit them on other stuff.
I issued a rule declaring the E-15 would be made available all year round, right? All year round. Nobody said that was going to happen. I also...
Yeah, because there's no reason for it, and it's dumb.
So dramatically increased the number of fueling stations where E-15 could be sold across the country, all over the country. And very importantly, I let them use the original pumps and equipment instead of having to buy brand new equipment, just because I did it, because it was equal to, in some cases, better than the new stuff. So I said, do it. People came to me. They said, we just can't afford to redo this. And
hold on. I love when he tells these stories. So Trump, E-15 rule. Yeah, I wonder why he's bringing it up. A federal appeals court on Friday threw out a Trump-era Environmental Protection Agency rule change that allowed for the sale of 15% ethanol gasoline blend into summer months. The decision deals a significant blow to the ethanol industry and corn farmers, whoops, let me move this down here, who grow the crop from which the fuel additive is made. They had anticipated increased ethanol demand throughout the year, sales of the higher blend. The Iowa governor was mad. Most gasoline sold in the United States is blended with 10% ethanol instead of 15%. Corn farmers and ethanol refiners have pushed for the government to allow the widespread sale of 15%. The Trump administration made the change to fulfill a campaign promise to Midwest farmers. Let's see. Provisions of Clean Air prohibit the sale of certain fuels with a higher volatility from June 1st to September 15th to limit smog. Congress has allowed 10%, and the EPA in its 2019 ruling revised the interpretation of the exemption to the federal law to include the 15% ethanol blend. Ethanol supporters contend that using more of the corn-based renewable fuel is better for the environment and helps meet federal climate change goals. 3 judges on the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, and by the way, Biden waived the 15 for the summer anyways, and basically, since it's on right now, it's been a year or two. Reflects compromise, not simply a desire, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for the part where it said they didn't want to change their pumps. Green state barriers that could inhibit market desire, cleaner burning fuel choice, blah, blah, blah. Major state in response to the ruling. Blah, blah, blah. Biofuels interested, important driver of economic growth. We know this. Could ask the full D.C. court to review. Industry is hoping this year's sales will not be curtailed because of the time the court issues made, blah, blah, blah. This is the third summer E15 sales have been allowed, and there were indications sales were increasing. Sales jumped 24%. I don't know where we got to make new pumps shit came from.
remember we had that,
It seems like
that conversation, and we worked it out. So
I don't know who he's pointing to, and my guess is they're like, who?
I'm very honored to have done it. Every promise I made to Iowa as a candidate, I fulfilled as your president. Nobody's ever done this.
Yeah, both of them. Even if they're bad for the country, but I don't care because you guys are first, and if you win the first one, you're good throughout. And now it's not going to be first, and shit.
I made that promise to defend ethanol, and sometimes we really had to go to the wall on that one, but I did, and I took care of it.
The EPA rule allows for a waiver for the 15% standard just on a presidential signature. That's why it can be turned over by the next president. It's a rule, not a law. Jesus Christ.
I promised to move the embassy to Jerusalem and to get it built, and I did.
And I did, and we used it was built out of corn. At least that's what it looked like. Ugh.
I got it built for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time. You know, when they came to me, sir, would you please sign this, sir? I said, what's that for? That's for the American Embassy in Jerusalem after I announced that we're going to move it. So moving it was one thing, but it would have never gotten built. It would have been...
By the way, Melissa, thank you so much.
25 years. I said, how much is this? $2 billion, sir. I said, wait a minute. We're going to build an embassy, like a one-story building, two-story building. How do you don't build them for $2 billion in Iowa, I don't think, Jeff, do you?
Yeah, no, there are no $2 billion buildings in Iowa at all. Some big silos. Gee, I can't imagine why in a country that is constantly under the threat of war from its neighbors, you would want a reinforced building. At this point, I don't even know why you don't just build a prefab building out of shipping containers. Fuck them. Let the embassy staff just swelter. It's not like, Israel's an important country to the United States or anything.
So
Jesus Christ. This asshole is bragging about building a building without any of the material countermeasures or safety or anti-spying measures that they were asking for. That's it. Basically, he just built a building that anybody wants to listen into the fucking thing, they can hear whatever's going on there. He made it useless to embassy staff, essentially, to do anything that requires any kind of national security.
Why so much? They said, well, sir, by the time we do this and buy the land, why do you have to buy land? Don't we have land there? Well, we do, sir, but nobody's really looked at that. We'll take a look. So I called up some people, and we looked at it very closely, and we happen to have the best piece of land in Jerusalem because we sort of were there early. We're in...
Wait a minute. We built the American Embassy on the Temple on the Mount? I just have to say, from a revelation standpoint, that's a mistake.
A lot of places early as a country. We've been there a long time. I said, could we use it? It had a building on. Could we use it? We'll build the embassy there. We just saved $300 million on land. They were trying to rip us on a piece of land that was not even a good location. I know a lot about location because I'm in the real estate business. Location is very important. But they said, yes, sir, but it's got a problem. What? It's got a building on top of it, sir. I said, oh, that's good. Maybe that's good. Maybe we can use the building. Oh, I never thought of that, sir. So I had a study done.
Yeah, that's totally how this went down. He's talking to people who we never thought that we would just use a building we already own there for this. That never even came up.
And the building was very strong.
Only a lunatic would suggest.
It was set back. All of the things that you had, they wanted set back for security. It was a very big site, beautiful, beautiful views. Really the best site.
Yeah, it's great views. That's the problem. Into the building.
And we already have it. And the building was not even occupied. So I rebuilt the building. I did this as a personal thing, and we were going to spend $2 billion on the whole project. We ended up spending $500,000. Can you believe it?
No, I don't. I think you got $500,000 from the State Department budget, and then the military picked up the back end by just tiptoeing around you, and you didn't give a shit, and you signed off on it. That's what I think. He built a $500,000 building. There's not a $500,000 house in that area.
I went to he was a great ambassador. And David, I said, David, let's see what we can do it for. He calls me back. Sure, we can do it. This is the first time I ever did this. We can do it, sir, for $297,000. I've never said this before. I said, David, that sounds too cheap, Usually I say, let's see if you can cut it in half. Cut the price in half. But,
But it wasn't my money. It's taxpayer money. Fuck them.
Going off a $2 billion number. So I said, a friend of mine, a very big hedge fund guy, rich guy, every time I walk into his office, he shows me about Jerusalem stone. Oh, this is Jerusalem, opposite the elevator bank, big building. And he goes, look, this is Jerusalem stone. I said, if you tell me that again, I said, what's the big deal? Oh, this is the finest stone, the greatest stone. It comes from Israel and everything else. So when I heard that, I said, 2 years later, I said to my guys, can we build this building in Jerusalem stone? Yes, sir. It's the cheapest stone we can buy. It's right here. You believe it? So the whole building is Jerusalem stone. Nobody can believe it, and it's gorgeous. So we opened it up on time, under budget, actually under budget.
Hold on one second. Um, let's see, 2018. U.S. Embassy moves to Jerusalem, USA Today. Ambitious expansion, history of the youth consulate. Let's see, where is it? New York, Washington Post. The Yellowstone building. Project was opened in 2010. Okay. Back in, oh shit, hold on. Sign in. Get out of here, you bastage. Come on now. I gotta open the. All right. This is what he's talking. Hold on. Jump it over. Okay. New U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. A stone plaque and $400,000 in renovations for now. This is a good look. Her standing there in front of it, and these folks fired. But yeah, okay. Standing in the yard outside the soon-to-be U.S. Embassy last week, U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman watched as a worker positioned a newly chiseled stone plaque on the wall. Friedman held up his phone and snapped a picture. Donald Trump, President of the United States, moved this here. For all the fanfare surrounding the opening of the new embassy in Jerusalem this Monday, the hanging of the plaque on what is currently a consular services building is one of the few changes that will initially take place. The first phase involves shifting just the ambassador and his core staff to Tel Aviv, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, less than half a dozen people, according to U.S. official. That first move, including building modifications, additional security, cost less than $400,000, the U.S. official said. The move is deeply symbolic, upending the decades-old policy of withholding recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital until the final status of the contested city is worked out in a peace agreement between the Israeli and the Palestinians. About 700 guests, mostly Americans, came there. Israel is bracing for demonstrations, blah, blah, blah. Palestinian officials have called on diplomats. They're mad. Those who attend the ceremony will thus be sending an ominous message, a message that they encourage flagrant violations of international law and inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. The Yellowstone building at 14 David Flusser Street was opened in 2010, a state-of-the-art, environmentally friendly building where service. I wonder who was president in 2010 when a state-of-the-art, environmentally friendly building was built. I can't think. Where services such as passport renewals for U.S. citizens, visa application by local residents are approved. The site, the newest and most secure U.S. facility in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, one of the U.S. officials said. It's just an old apartment. It's an old building. He tore it down and he rebuilt it for $500,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 or whatever. Now a new asphalt road paid for by a grant from the Israeli Transport Ministry. That's obviously not going on the 500. Snakes up to its side. It's one of the few modifications made during the first phase of the move. Workers are putting in finishing touches. I guess that's all, it's built entirely out of fucking whatever, Jerusalem stone. Trump said he brought down the cost of the new embassy from an estimated $1 billion to $250,000, but in late April, Trump said he had budgeted $300 to $400. That cost, however, does not cover the transfer of a dozen additional staff members expected to move to the site over the following year, or the building extension to be constructed for them, nor does the figure account for the final embassy itself. U.S. officials said they could not provide details of later stages because Trump wouldn't let them. We don't have any specific information that something will happen, but the police are ready for any protests, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so there you go. $400,000 for the initial move of the staff. It's the most advanced building that we do own there. It's not a crappy old building that he just put a fucking spit polish on. It's actually the most advanced building that we have, the ability to use. And they just built an easement off the site. Okay. Shall we?
And it's the embassy. And, someday maybe they'll take it down and build some stupid building that costs $2 billion and is unnecessary, which they've done in many other locations.
Also, by the way, sorry. Let's see. U.S. build Israel here. Nope. Trying to find something real quick. 1 second. 2010 U.S. Israel objects to U.S. construction demands Okay, they're talking about, that's mostly the, hold on. The new buildings, bombs, East Jerusalem building plans. Okay, that's the U.S. 20 U.S. build. How am I gonna, like, searching for this is gonna be like, because it's usually, it's in 2010. It's talking about the actual settlements. As a USA implication moving U.S. embassy to Israel. That's house.gov, and yeah, 9 pages. Here's your partnership. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. There's got to be. I want to find the initial costs of that building. That's what I'm curious about. The moves to deeply combined. Tell you half a dozen people. A few changes will have to be made. Let's see. David Freeman for the. What's the address on it? 14 Dave. What was it? Excuse me 1 second. There it is. 14 David Flusser Street. Copy. Let's go to here. Maybe there's a Wikipedia thing. Text gov info. Jerusalem Postal. United States Embassy. Here's what I'm looking at, by the way. I just want you to know I'm like searching through the embassy's info. See, this is going to frequently ask questions. How much did the building cost initially is what I'm looking for. Because I'm going to guess it was very expensive. And then they tacked on the extra $400,000. Open day for some U.S. passport things. CIA, Israel, facts and figures. Embassy photo. Note, the embassy was relocated to Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. Of course, we know that. Yeah, if we can find, I'll keep trying to dig up the cost because this is going to annoy me. I know it's a little thing, but let's see real quick. Block. Cost of initial construction. Yeah, it's going to be hard to come up with. I'm just going to guess the building didn't cost $400,000.
I can tell you. But it was a great thing. So we not only got it in terms of declaring Jerusalem the capital of Israel, which is a big deal to a lot of people.
Especially Christians who hope the end of the world is coming soon.
Big deal. But we got the building built, and it was built very quickly. And I heard all sorts of things are going to happen if you do it. It's going to be terrible. It'll be bloodshed all over the Middle East. Nothing. So it was just a way of stopping something that people didn't want. But when you look at the job we did there, and we got rid of the Iran nuclear deal, now what's happened when you look at what is taking place right now, it's so sad what's going on right now. They were ready to make a deal. We would have made the greatest deal ever. They would have never had a nuclear weapon. They would have been actually happy about it. But this
they don't want a nuclear weapon. It's a burden.
Group came in and allowed them to get rich and allowed them to dictate the terms, and it was really, really a terrible thing. I promise.
Yeah, they still don't have one, by the way. It's been 2 years. They were 6 months away, apparently.
Promise to appoint
when you killed the deal.
True conservative justices to the United States Supreme Court, and I did.
Both of them who voted against you in your ridiculous voting nonsense.
Yeah, 3 of them.
I gotta say, maybe they just have mics far away, but this is this seems pretty pitiful. This is not one of Trump's like giant fucking rallies. And this is Rumble, so if they wanted to, they could pull out to here. Okay, so where are we right now? I'm at 32.5 or whatever. I have no interest in, I can't continue because I got shows and I got a thing. We got to make dinner for the kid. And so I'm gonna call it for the night. Maybe we'll redress this on Wednesday, or I'll go through and pull some clips just for fun. But for the record, this is not the rally that people were promised by any stretch of the fucking imagination. Yeah, I don't know if they're not showing the crowd. I don't know if they do at any point. This is him. They just keep it on him like this the whole time. In this so far, anyways, give me 1 second. Let's see. Trump, Davenport, Iowa, which I take very personally in honor of Mr. Davenport. That's why they call me Mr. Davenport. That's the Hill, 52 minutes ago. Trump delivers remarks on education, 3:30. Okay, let's see.
Language, they say the wrong thing. Sometimes they're much too tough, but always on the wrong subject. And sometimes they're weak as hell. Like,
hold on. This is so weird.
When Biden said initially on Afghanistan, well, he could go in and maybe take over some of the country. That was not a good signal. That was not a good signal.
Hi, stupid. By the way, for all the, Ron Filipowski, love you, brother. Remember we were talking about Biden's gaffes being worrisome? Trump just mixed up Ukraine and Afghanistan again.
For some of the country. That was not a good signal.
Hold on.
And sometimes they're weak as hell. Like when Biden said initially on Afghanistan, well, he could go in and maybe take over some of the country. That was not a good signal. That was not a good signal. People said, did he really say that?
No, he didn't really say that because you mean Ukraine, and he didn't say that either.
But we have inflation.
Somebody's yelling Ukraine at him.
These are all self-inflicted wounds, much worse than wounds. We have inflation that's rampant. If you look at what inflation over 200 years, what it's done to countries that had to suffer through it destroys the countries. It's like cancer.
Yeah, it is. Inflation is like a cancer. A managed cancer that your financial system needs to survive. You need 2% of cancer all the time.
Destroys the countries. We have now banks that are closing. Two big banks yesterday closed. That's a bad sign.
I got to get out of here. This is crazy. Hold on. Oops. Is it true that 15 banks failed during Trump's presidency? My, oh my. Why, yes, it is. Those 15 banks failed between the time Trump was inaugurated and when he left office. All of them were smaller than the banks that failed in March 2023, attributing well, that's because business wasn't as good either, especially for all the crypto crowd. And it won't be again. Attributing bank failure solely to whichever political party is in power amidst nuances concerning why the banks failed in the first place and what lessons can be learned to prevent other banks from failing in the future. Social media spread the claim that 15 banks in the U.S. have shut down under Trump. We found the claim to be true. Subject emerged. Let's see. Silicon Valley with $209 billion in assets when it closed. It is the second largest bank failure after behind Washington Mutual's failure. By the way, it's the biggest failure because that's the size of the banks that the government was like, fuck them. Just so you know. There were way bigger banks that were distressed in 2008, but they were too big to fail. Washington Mutual was the biggest bank that was not too big to fail. Get me? Okay. So also prompted regulators to close Signature Bank, which is the third largest bank failure in history. The bank had $110 billion in assets when it closed. Another bank, Silvergate Capital, announced its intent to wind down operations and liquidate its assets on March 8th, where the bank was facing multiple lawsuits that accused the bank of not having adequate protections to detect money. The bank had $11 billion in assets at the end of 2022. Here we go. Banks did fail under Trump. Here's the list of the bank failures. That's the FDIC. Jake Sherman provided the list. There you go. Here's the list of the banks that closed and their dates of closure. Seaway, I wouldn't blame Trump because he was just there. March 3rd, possibly. I don't know. First NBC Bank, that was clearly an attack. He put, MSNBC has a bank, shut it down. Shut it down. IRS attack. Guarantee Bank, which is spelled weird, so it should shut it down. Fayette County Bank, oh dear God. Which one? The one in Kentucky or the one in Illinois or the one in Indiana or the one in Ohio or the one, there's a lot of Fayette counties. Farmers and Merchants, State Bank of Argonia, Enloe, Louisa Community Bank, Resolute Bank, City National Bank of New Jersey. That's a big one. Just the Jersey branch, though. Manufacturers call it bank available, undercapitalization. We all know this. Anyways.
That could be the beginning. We have an economy that's in shambles.
It totally is. You don't feel it yet because it's slowly winding into shambles. You think you're doing good, and you think you were obviously able to come here. I mean, you can't beat the ticket price, am I right?
You know, last year, you don't realize this, last year we had the worst stock market since 1929. Did you know that?
Well, percentage-wise, but then it went back up, so nobody gave a shit.
We had the worst stock markets, you know.
Yes. Yeah. We had the worst stock market since 1929, which means we haven't really had a bad stock market since 1929.
You don't think of it
by those standards.
You continue to do, it's tighter, it's tougher, you have inflation, your gasoline costs you 4 or 5 times as much in some cases. But we had the worst stock market since 1929. It actually goes back longer than that. It goes back to, I think, 1887. But I said, let's use 1929 because people understand. That was called the Great Depression.
Ah, see, I was wondering why he was using that particular date. I know a lot of you were, because I don't know why you wouldn't go back to the 1800s to talk about the stock market, because there's so many parallels to that, the stocks sold in the 1800s and the NASDAQ.
But we had the worst stock market. People have their 401ks. Does anybody have a 401k? Raise your hand if you're happy with it, because not too many people. Anybody happy with the results? Because I'll tell you what, they were happy when I was running this country. They were making a fortune with the 401k.
Yeah, you were making a fortune with your 401k. Explain to everyone how you make a fortune on your 401k when you're in your 50s, let's say. And how that fortune can go away and then come back and then go away and then come back and then be big and then be very big and then go to back to where it was. And then eventually, and then no.
I had a police officer in New York, the great...
Yeah, tough guy. He was crying when he said this. And he said, "Sir, I have a 402k.
People. He came up to me and said, "Sir, I want to thank you. My wife always said I'm a incompetent, horrible investor. We have a 401k. And all my life I was suffering with her, sir. You don't know what you're doing. You did. Sir, she gave me the biggest kiss last night. I was up 59% last year. This is a few years ago. And my wife loves me so much. She thinks I'm the greatest investor ever now, sir. And I just want to thank this."
What? You don't have control over what goes into your 401k day to day?
Big handsome cop from New York.
Yes. Did you kiss him too? Was it a threesome? I'm getting really creeped out.
And I sort of just remembered it, but many people said that.
I sort of just remembered it. I mean, I'm sure it's exactly as he tells
They were
it.
up 50, 60, 70, 80%. And now you're going down at numbers that nobody would have thought. Yeah, it was the worst stock market since 1929. Think of.
Yeah, but that's because in sheer numbers, because the 3,000 points back then was the whole fucking shebang.
What that is, the Great Depression. We have a country that's a mess, but more importantly, it's a world that's in serious trouble because we have such an impact on the world. We lead the world.
Which is why I'm running for president of Earth. And don't get creeped out because the Bible thinks says that makes me the Antichrist. Don't. Just read one of the Corinthians, not
world,
both.
Or we should, but we're not leading it anymore. When you see that.
Yeah, we kind of are,
And
actually.
you see Saudi Arabia made a deal with Iran, and they made it through China, not through the United States. Who would?
No, they didn't. They made it through Iraq. China took credit for it. And good luck, by the way. We'll be watching that one. Knock yourself the fuck out. And by the way, there's a reason, why we can't broker a deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia ourselves, and why the UN will do it or another country will do it inevitably when it happens, is because we would have demands on how women are treated or political prisoners or that kind of shit for us to even be involved. China didn't give a fuck.
Who would have thought of that one? Who would have thought Saudi Arabia? I said this 2 years ago. I said, if they keep going like this, Saudi Arabia is going to get together with Iran through China.
Yeah, that's what you said. I totally remember when he said that. You guys remember when he said that?
And China's going to control that whole situation. It should have been done through us. We could have had that done so easily.
Yeah, if we just did those pesky women's rights.
These things are unprecedented.
Oh, by the way, sorry. Yes, same. Hold on. Real deal. This is in New York. Oh, that's the 2019. Yeah, here we go. Hold on one second. There we go.
Things are happening that are unprecedented. The Biden administration has driven Russia right into the arms of China, something that is unacceptable. When you're a child studying history,
Yes, when you're a child studying history, what do they tell you?
one thing you learn is you never
The one thing.
want Russia and China to get together.
That's right. Yeah. It's that's like Roseanne and Tucker. You just don't. It's very dangerous. It's a why?
And form an alliance. Biden has done that. They have a big, beautiful alliance, right?
They do. It's a big, beautiful alliance. They love each other. It's going to go so well. Everything. It's just I'm jealous, really.
Now. And they've driven Russia right into the arms of China.
Or vice versa. I forget whose arms wide open.
Like taking candy from a baby. It was for China. It was very easy. We also have.
It really is. So Russia's desperate, is what you're saying.
The Iran problem,
or stupid, or innocent, or naive.
I would have had that done very quickly because they were in bad shape financially. Now they're rich again. I told China, if you want to buy oil from them, that's fine, but you're not going to do any more business with the United States.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
And they said, we will not buy oil from them. They didn't. And we were in a position where we could have made a great deal and made a deal for them too. Made a deal for everybody to keep the world safe.
I may be America first, but I'm Iran second, and I don't get credit.
But when I left, all of a sudden, China went back and started paying a fortune for the oil, and they're rich now. Iran is very rich now, and it's a much different situation than it was.
All right, this is gonna keep me here all night, isn't it? Hold on. Whoops, hold on. Trying to. Why can't I? Oh, my browser is stuck below. Why is it not full page? Grumble. All right, hold on. I'm gonna end up being here all night. I'm gonna end up chasing articles, and I'm not gonna find them, and it's gonna take me the whole night. There we go. So I'm going to maybe pick some of this up on Wednesday if I feel like it or there's a part to be addressed. Otherwise, I will be here all night, and I have to go cook dinner, and this is ridiculous. So, and it's the same stuff, and it's the same bullshit, and it's the same lies over and over and over again. Iran currently, by the way, their deal with Saudi Arabia boosted their currency, the rial, 10%. It rose. The real has risen 25% since February when it dropped to a historic low of 600,000 to the US dollar. It is now 450,000 reals to the US dollar, which sounds amazing. You can get 450,000 Iranian reals for $1. So after this deal, after their currency went down 60%, it went up 25% of the 60% or the 40% that was left over. I know. It's a great deal. This is a man who clearly wrote Art of the Deal. Ugh, God, I will be here all night with every fucking lie. Anyways, love you guys. I will see you on Wednesday. No show tomorrow because I have the jam and I've got sound check right in the middle of when I would have the show. So forgive me for not having a show tomorrow. You can help me out though when I'm not on the air instead of me having to be a pay for play kind of a person. If you subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, or pop in there with a super chat or something like that, or a super thanks if you're watching this later, I suppose. Or just become a patron. Patreon.com/AlSparks. Okay, love you guys. See you on Wednesday.